Unless you are lucky enough to have a water tap and or sink right on your site and easily available, chances are you've had to deal with water containers. And the quality of these vary. Some will split and leak, others won't even last a year. And I know I've dealt with all of that. Most of my sessions are run in woodlands without access to water. So everything that I use for a session has to be carted right in. So I've gone through a number of different containers over the years. So today we're going to have a look at some of the different containers you can find on the market, which ones are best for which situation, and what would be my recommendation for you to get. If you're interested in that, keep watching. I'll see you in a mo. So the first water container that we're going to talk about is this, the ubiquitous jerry can. So you can see, really simple construction, handle on the top, tap on the top, well rather cap rather than tap on the top, and it is thinner than it is wide. These stack really well in a row, and you can find them in most places. Most camping shops, most outdoor stores, most online stores will sell something similar to these. These are quite handy for carrying water, just to use to pour straight out in large quantities, because one of the things that is missing from these is a tap. So usually they may well have a tap on top, but in general it's just a very simple construction. These work decently well. Do watch out for the cheaper ones because they do have a habit of leaking. So these clear plastic ones sometimes do. All in all, they are pretty good, pretty useful, easy to carry, but not quite as easy to dispense. Which brings us on to the second water carrier. So this is essentially jerry can with a bit of a modification. They have a tap on the bottom. This means that it's easier to dispense water. You're just using gravity. You can loosen the cap a bit and get good airflow in, so that means you get good flow out, because we're not creating a vacuum. So these are very handy, apart from one thing. If you are manhandling them in and out of cars and vans, into and out of trolleys, and generally they're getting knocked about a bit, these taps are extremely vulnerable to damage. As you can see here, this used to be a working tap, and it lasted me about 6 months before the tap broke off. And the problem now is that because of the tap's location, unless I replace the tap, this is pretty much useless. As you can see, water will come straight out the bottom there. So these are good if you're looking for something cheap and cheerful. You can find these again most outdoor stores, and they are relatively affordable. And moving on along, this one's full of water, if you hadn't guessed. This is the Ridge Monkey water carrier, and this is one that I use most of the time. So I originally started off with these jerry cans, upgraded to ones with a tap for ease of access, and then after a number of these failed and taps broke, everything else, I switched over to this one, the Ridge Monkey. Now what's nice about this is it is quite squat, so it slots into small places quite easily, and it's got a nice handle on the top, just like the others. But the real innovation is the fact that it has a tap which stores inside the lid of the container. So that means when it's in transport, in storage, you can just screw the tap onto the inside of the lid, and it will be inside the jerry can, and it will be then protected from any bumps and scrapes, any damage. And then when you get to site, You can swap them over. And the screws onto this end. You can also get pumps and all sorts of interesting accessories for these. Yeah, and it fits on. Now these work exceptionally well. I found them very hard wearing, good quality. Taps last quite a while because they're inside, and if the tap did go, you would still be able to use this as a watering container because you would still have another cap to use. And because all of the outlets are on the top rather than on the side or the bottom, that means that if this is standing upright like this, then there's a very much reduced chance it will leak. Like I say, haven't had any problems. I now have 2 of these and I've been using them for getting close to 2 years now and not had any issues at all. Apart from one thing, so when you have it full, you will create a bit of a vacuum if you're using the tap at the bottom, so you won't get the best flow rate. And then once it's emptied a bit, you can actually just undo the top by just a couple of half turns just to release that seal and allow the water to flow in so the water can flow out. So these are the ones I use day to day. Then my most recent acquisition, got these. This is a generic brand. They do a couple of different versions of these. They all seem to be pretty much the same. So probably another issue worth talking about besides the vacuum seal is that when you turn this tap, it pretty much moves from off to fully on, and you're losing a lot of water all at once. This water container negates 2 of the main problems with the Ridge Monkey. First of all, it has a screw tap on, so you can turn a little bit at a time, and you can gradually increase or decrease the flow. It comes with a handy nozzle which can drop onto the end, but I will admit I haven't used that very much. Probably used for if you're filling water bottles or things with quite a thin opening at the top. But yeah, can't say I've used that very much, but it does store away on the side and not cause any problems. But one of the big innovations is the fact that it has a bleeder valve on the top. So when you've got it on its side and you're ready to dispense the water, you can open the little hole at the top and you get good airflow in, so there's no vacuum inside there, so the water flow out is pretty good. My one issue with this, as one that I mentioned with previous 2, is that the tap does remain on the outside. But this is one that I would recommend if you can filling on site, because it is quite large and heavy. But there we go. So that's a basic overview of some of the watering containers you have on the market. There are others like aqua rolls, but these are the ones that I've personally used and I personally have experience with. So once you've kind of decided what sort of equipment fits your needs, do you need to be able to dispense water in small bursts, so say filling cups or washing hands? Do you need just a large volume of water? Do you need just a little bit for children to play with? Or do you need a whole lot? Once you've decided what kind of system you're looking for, whether you need a tap or not, etc., then the thing to think about is volume. Now, depending on what sort of session you're running and what sort of use you're going to come to, there are a number of different volumes had. So this little one here is 5 liters. So this is the one that I add into the children's mud kitchen. So it's just enough water so that they can have some fun with it, cook some delicious mud pies and so on. It's just a small container, maybe be good for a little bit of drinking water, a little bit of a top up. But essentially it's it's a small size, so you're not carrying in massive amount of water. It's easily handled at this weight. So remember, every litre of water is a kilo of weight, so it starts adding up quite quickly, especially with the weight of the container itself. So that's 5 litres. As I said, good for small projects, good for if you are having a very minimal session. Then we move on to, this one is 10 litres. They also do a 5. Of all of these, they will have various different sizes. So this one has a 5, 10 and a 15. So this is the 10 litre, which I think is just about perfect for most sessions. I usually run an entire day's worth of session off here. I have the handy tap, can never remember which one it is. I have a video above that describes my hand washing setup that I use to minimize use of water. With that system and this jerry can, I can run an entire day's worth of activities, provided I'm not doing anything that requires a larger volume of water. So if you're doing a bit of carving, if you're just doing some play, and all you need to do is be topping up some drinking water and maybe a little bit of hand washing, and if you've got a fire, it's a small fire and you're just putting it out in the end, 10 litres is pretty good. 10 to 11 kilos weight to carry is quite easy for most people to manage, so it's a good size. But as soon as you get up to working with clay, lots of cooking where there'll be massive amounts more hand washing, playing with water, having sailing races, whatever, you're probably going to need to either have multiple carriers of these or move on up to something like a 20 litre or even a 25 litre. So my overall system is that I'll use one of these for the everyday sessions. If I know I'm going to be using a lot more, if I'm going to be doing anything with flour, I know there's going to be such a mess and we're going to need a lot of cleanup, a lot of hand washing. I will then bring in the 25 litre and that will get me through an entire day. It's also great for workshops. If I've set up at a conference, I'll bring the big one because I carry it in once, I fill it up, and I can keep just running backwards and forwards, getting it filled up. And because it dispenses water so well, I don't have to make more than a trip a day, and 25 litres will hold it. 20 litres, the problem with these two, heavy lifting, but they do work quite well. So there you go, those are the two things to think about. What sort of setup do you want? What sort of quality are you looking for? And then decide on the right volume for your water containers. So there we go, that is water containers in a nutshell. As I said, Ridge Monkey, I've used the brand quite a while now. Got 2 containers, got colleagues that have used them. They've been fantastic, no leaks so far, really good. Have had some trouble with the cheaper of these. I'd recommend staying away from ones with the tap on the side, especially if it's quite a cheap brand. This, it is Upwoi or whatever it's called. I'll leave a link to all of these containers in the description. There will be Amazon affiliate links, but they are it's cost way free to support the channel, and really appreciate if you buy through that link. But yeah, these style are pretty decent. Haven't had any problems with it, but then I haven't had this all that long, so I'll let you know if anything changes in that. Jerry cans, cheap and cheerful, really good for something that you're just going to hand to the children to run off and play with. There we go. I hope this has helped you in some of your decision making on finding the best water container for you and your sessions. And remember, make the most of every single day, and I will see you in the next video.